Hello. Time to do that topic that I didn't do on Friday. And we're gonna combine it. We're gonna combine it with study. Hi Yatsuki, how's it going? So what better study than metal? Metal reflections. It's really good. Really good study. And when you understand the behavior, you can really, when you paint from yourself, from your imagination, the material will be way more believable. How's it going? How was the weekend? I didn't end up streaming because I ended up drinking beer and playing games. Oh yeah. That's what I did. Beer and video games at night. No streaming. But it was a fantastic time. I really enjoyed it, and I feel even more so now towards the end of the year. Or like enough grind. You know. I've been chipping away at my art book. I'm almost there where I can hand it off and not worry about it, and start working on the second art book. And then what? Sorry. Egria. Super hot coffee, but I need to drink something. Ah, there we go. Better. While I'm doing the content for the second art book, which is sci-fi, dark sci-fi, I will be making a game, indie game. That is my plan for next year, to get one indie game out and one art book out. That is my plan for next year. The art book was supposed to be out this year, but it was on my own fault. I got swamped by freelance stuff and projects and workshops and so on. Hey Meatslurp, Zialin, Amir, what up? So the ref for the Tin Man is on 'ref if you want to do the study. If you want to copy it, you can do that. But best is to look at it and try to analyze it and then draw your own, which I will be doing. I will be drawing my own Tin Man or metallic scarecrow, but I will look at the reference and kind of lean on it. Hey Miguel, what's up? What's up? I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. Let's do this. So, as I was saying, I'll be working on my art book soon. Soon it'll be finished, and then when it's finished, I'll be working on my second art book and indie game. So that's gonna be fun. And also, in the streams, I will be switching to 3D soon on the warm-ups to play around with Blender and sculpting. So we'll see how that goes. Amir, yeah, yes, metallic. Bruno Romanos. Yeah, Miguel, if you wanna post the URL to your latest video, please do. I'm quite sure people will enjoy it. It's some high quality stuff. Frox, welcome. Atsuki, your rotator cuff? Ouch. Is it like a frozen shoulder thing, or is it just wear and tear? You might be sitting wrong. So you're engaging the wrong part of your anatomy. Could be. Or maybe it's an injury. Frox, you're scared of wrist injuries. Yeah. One thing you should consider, Frox, one thing that you should consider, which I always do, whenever I get a new wake up product, here's something you should consider. Consider how much pressure you need to apply for painting. The reason is, the more you pinch your fingers, the more you stiffen the wrist while you're drawing, the more tension there is, and the more frozen they will become, and it's going to be harder. So what I always do is I go in to the pen settings in the Wacom, and what I do is I adjust the frequency of the curve. You can adjust the curve of where the pen will start to bite in terms of pressure, like in the value range. So what I've done is that I usually set it up so that I have a really wide range on very little pressure, and then the harder I press, the less value comes in. So the curve is upwards, I think, if I remember correctly. I never really remember what the settings are. I need to just play around with them myself, and then I will know how it acts, and I'm like, yeah, that's the setting. But in general, the general idea is that you want to have a lot of range in your values with very little pressure. Hey, Dame Deviant. So the idea is that when you're painting, the majority of your value work, or the majority of your line stuff, will happen with very light pressure. So you don't need to like get all the values down, like really pushing all the time, right? So you need to grip really hard, because the more relaxed you can be, the more you can let it slide without, forcing it down. The less tension you're gonna get in your hand. If that makes sense. That's at least how I do it. And it works for me, and I'm used to that setting and that behavior. So I really hardly ever. I only get quite sore hand if there's a lot of line art involved. But most of the time, I try to make it so that I don't need to push that hard for the lines to get down. Froax, I am using 24-inch Cintiq. No, not an Intius. I used an Intius though, but it was the same principle there too. You don't want to, with the Cintiq or Intius, you don't want to be pushing down too hard. because that's when a lot of injuries occur. It's when you're always forcing, always putting pressure, and you have to grip the pen harder, and then you're locking those sinews and muscles in your hand, and you're stressing them, and that's where injuries come, right? It's when it's repetitive constantly. Froax, I used Intius for 10 years, maybe 8 years. No, 10 years easily. It did the job really, really well. So don't feel forced to buy a Cintiq. If you have an opportunity to borrow one or use one for an extended period of time, like a month or so or a week, take it, try it, and play around with it. It's not for everyone though, and it's not necessary for to get the job done. So a lot of it is just it's a very expensive toy. But for me, for example, and for a lot of other people, using a Cintiq where you see where you're painting is a game changer. Like when I tried my first Cintiq, I was like, yeah, there we go. This is what's been missing. It didn't really change my work, but it made it a lot more enjoyable. And in one way, it slowed me down quite a lot. I moved my hand a lot slower, but I gained a lot of accuracy. So it was a little bit give and take. Gria. There is a friend of mine is buying a Huawei. I think it's a Huawei or a Huion. I don't remember. Tablet. Let me see if it's. Where is he talking about his tablet? Huion tablet. But there is a good line of Huion tablets. Dame Deviant, yeah, I mean, Wacom is is expensive, but it's also not a toy. You know, it's like a you use it for your trade, right? There is a lot of other brands that do the same thing. You don't really need a Wacom to do your job. It's just one of many different tools. Monamir, yeah, that's what I've heard too. Froax. Well, you don't know what a Huron is and how it works, you know. Best is to try one. Ice dye. Yeah, well, that's one thing with a kind of smaller company or less in tune with Windows. You know, it's like yeah, so you're gonna have driver issues, and you're not probably shouldn't update every time there is an update and things like that. And there's always, you know, smaller products, smaller brand names always have a little bit of a struggle, but that's part of the beast, you know. That's a problem. Part of the problem. You don't really pay for their efficiency. You know, the bigger the brand, the more pressure on them never to mess up. But if you pay 100 for a Huon instead of 1,500, it's an okay pain to have. You know. Hey, Eternal Lady, what's up? And Tomas, welcome. Good morning. Hey Shartha, how's it going? Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is um, you should always try it. If you have an opportunity to try one, if you know someone around you that has one, or you know, it's worth trying out, and see if you can borrow it and try play around with it over a weekend or something. You know, it's really important that you do try though. And like I said, Cintiq is not a standard. Cintiq is a luxury and a preference, not any sort of requirement to make it. It is a very expensive choice, and it's not at all necessary to be able to do your job with. I chose to buy one because I liked them. It made my job fun, more fun than with a tablet. So I decided I'll buy one, but there's absolutely no necessity to have one or Photoshop. Shards are better soon, right? Froax, if you're around, you can come over and try it. We can buy some beer. You can sit and paint. You can talk some shit. One, I mean, yeah, absolutely. One thing though, why I love Photoshop, um, I guess it's because I'm also used to it. I used Photoshop 2.5 or 3E or whatever it was called back in the days, like late 90s. Ever since then, I was like, I think what made me stick with Photoshop was their brush, how they did their brushes. And now over all these years, I'm so accustomed to the shortcuts. But I'm quite sure that if given time, I would be able to just adapt to new shortcuts if I swapped. Frogs, whenever, just let me know. Eternal Lady, yeah, sure. Yeah, just send it on Discord. I can try to assist the best I can. I mean, I'm no Photoshop professional here. Well, kind of am, but I'm not. I do know Photoshop quite a bit, though, so I can try to help. Maybe you can, if it's, maybe you can post it in the chat. Maybe someone in the chat knows. If it's not anything that needs to be, um, hidden. And if there's something hidden, just make a mock-up of the problem, the specific problem on your NDA thing. And maybe we can look at the problem together. Sharsa, yeah. I mean, nowadays, I must say, like nowadays, all the new programs, they are very I mean, they imitate a lot of the standards of that Photoshop have established. So what I mean by that is it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter anymore which program you're using. That's my point. So. Ink by Alex. Finnish? If I'm Finnish? Yes or no? If you know Finnish, then you know my surname, which is funny. But I'm Finnish Swedish. Long story short, I'm both. Bruno, yeah, exactly. But it's also, I think, what that does with, for example, if you use another program and you use different brushes, it kind of punches a hole in your what you're accustomed to in terms of behavior, right? Like you're used to certain brushes, and if without them you are making an ugly painting. So the question is, does the brushes make your paintings good, or your skill set, or have you trained a certain shorthand with the brush? You know, and sometimes, like I have to. Sometimes I'm lost brushes, so I have to redo them, and what that does is it changes my behavior and changes my painting style. Ink by Alex, yeah. How's it going? Shana, Shana. Frogs, that's great. That's great. Yeah, it's important that you also exercise your wrists and train them so that they're hardened battle wrists. Because if you don't train them, you get also injury. You really need to loosen the tension up by exercise. I mean, well, yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, a lot of times a brush acts not the way you need it to, and you're constantly battling with the brush behavior. It's true. It's true. But I mean, what I meant with what I said earlier is that if you get used to the new program's shorthand behavior of the brush, right? The only reason why it's fighting against you is because you want it to behave a certain way which you're used to, right? And this way you're used to has zero meaning in terms of like product or industry quality, right? It's just for you what you're used to and how it should operate when you make your marks. I'm quite sure that the more time you spend with that program or that new brush, it'll inform you in for how it works, and you will inform it for how it should behave, and you make it work together. You know, I noticed that a lot. Sharza, yeah, absolutely. Eternal. All right, I'll look. So let's see if anyone has the problem. The problem is a circle in a circle. Oh, you mean the banding? Um, if you switch to up here, um, if you up the bits, if you up the bits on the image to 16 or 32 bits channels, you don't get that banding. That usually fixes it. It's self-explanatory when you think about it. It's just not enough bits. Shartha, doesn't matter. There's no standard really. Rock Knight, how's it going? Welcome. Meat Slurp. No, it's upping the or upping the bits should help remedy it, but also not completely remove it, obviously, because it's a super smooth gradient. I'm good, thank you, Rock Knight Studios. I'm good. Rock Knight Studios, do you ever go to game dev meetups? Frogs, how old is Opus Arts? I think Opus Arts is around 12 years, possibly. I'm not sure. I'm not the founder. But as far as I remember, it's around 12 years, possibly. 12 years old. Something like that. Or actually, let's see, 2004 maybe it was started. Or 2005, 6? 2005 maybe? So 14, possibly? Eternal Lady, try. Rock Knight Studios, oh cool. I will go on Wednesday. Where are we with time? 6 minutes left. Oh, it's a good study. Wait. More like that? Probably. Rock Knight, yeah, exactly. There we go. Frogs. Yeah, I mean, the thing is like this, right? Everything is possible. I promise you. I've told you my story. I told the chat my story before, but I can tell you too. I can tell you as well. I started learning to draw. I mean, I've always been good at drawing. I've always been that person that's good at drawing. So I've always kind of had a leg up on some people. The average person, I've always been better. But I've never went to art school. I've been self-taught. I started learning like full time when I was 24. It took me 2-3 years to get into the industry. I think it took 2 years, 1 year, two to 1 year to get into the industry of hard work, of hard training, learning, never giving up. But before that, I had a sketchbook and so on online for 2 years. But I drew maybe one drawing a week in between work, And then at 24, I started fully learning, like full-time student in game development. So I went to uni, which gave me time to study art, or practice art rather. We didn't have 2D at the uni. We had 3D animation and ZBrush and things and programming. um, but it allowed me to practice. So it took me 2 years to really get it into the industry of hardcore work. So I know a lot of people who even later in life started going into the industry, like 35, even 40. You know, like I want to get into this industry, and they got into the industry, and there's no problem. It's just about how hard or rather how smart are you working? Are you learning the right things with your time? You know, how are you spending your time? And anything is possible. And a lot of people give up, and that's okay. It's okay to give up as well. They probably aren't in the right time in their life, or maybe the industry isn't for them, or who knows, you know? But yeah, it's crazy. Wannabe, yeah. Me too. I have not played Death Stranding. I've stayed away from all sorts of spoilers. I think I watched 2 trailers. I wanna dive into that game, so I've been staying away from it. I think it'll look great on my big screen TV, so I'm kind of like waiting for, I think, Christmas time where I can sit and play it, where I don't need to grind, you know. Ana Cordero. I've been started learning digital painting and drawing in 2017. I'm 34 now. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been in the industry for 15 years. Next year I'll turn 40. So, you know, I started not very, you know, like at 24, like I said. I started getting jobs at 24. So, and that's, you know, in a lot of cases today, starting at 24 is regarded as, you know, late in that sense. I mean, there's 18-year-olds who are like amazing artists already, but that's fine. That's fine. You know, they are them. I am me. They don't have what I have. They don't have what I don't have. What they have, and so on and so on. That's what's cool with art, especially, is that we are all separate people with separate voices and separate minds, and we create unique things based, you know, on our life experiences and all, so on. A lot of young people, they tend to have a lot of flash, but not a lot of content, you know. And there's of course the rare people that have both, and they always skyrocket up, you know, like Finian McManus. He's what, like 22, worked on Avatar 2 and all sorts of movies, and he's one of those people who are just, he has the content, he has the skill, he has the understanding, he's been coached correctly. For him, he no zero problem to get into the industry, but those are very rare. Those, and same for like Jamie Jones and Craig Mullins, you know, they have the special blend of everything. And then there is a lot of people who are high up in the skill and the career, and they are all very seasoned and veterans. And then there's a huge bracket of average artists. I mean, if you think about it, like objectively, there's a huge bracket of average artists that are employed. So there's always a chance to get employed, you know, because there's a lot of need for just to kind of keep the wheels turning. And then everyone that's above the average block, they are lead or they are senior, and they show the way that for the big average block to follow and improve on, right? And not everyone wants to be at the upper block because of responsibility or so on and so on. There's a lot of skilled artists that lower themselves just so they can coach, you know, they can slide. And there's no age relevance other than how open you are or how willing you are to learn and listen. Thomas, iPad could work. Yeah, age has zero meaning other than life experience. Mirrors. What's important when you're self-taught is to push and find information and learn. You can't buy to win if you're self-taught. You have to roll up your sleeves and learn and figure things out and read about it. You can't buy a Gumroad to teach you. Because when you're schooled, you get taught a certain range of lessons and requirements, and you're being pushed in a certain direction all the time, and you don't have that push, so you have to push yourself and going, okay, what do I need to learn? How do I get that information? What is color theory? You can't buy Gumroad because the Gumroad is someone else who understands it, that filters it. You need to go to the source of how it works, color theory, for example, and the source is classic, you know, classic techniques of grasping the theory of color. You know. Runaway Buzzo, how do I suggest to start to work in the industry? I give the opportunity, or I give the suggestion of start a group, make an indie game or a project, help push each other, get noticed, and cool stuff always gets noticed. So make sure you share it. Make sure you share it at the right time, at the right place. Right time, right place usually involves hold it back until you can't make it any better, and drip feed people your project in general. Make cool shit. People always want cool shit, you know. Runaway Buzzo. Mentor is great. I didn't have a mentor. I know people who had a mentor. It doesn't matter. It's not a requirement. It's up to you. I don't need anyone to tell me. I'm fully able to. I'm fully able to find the information myself and teach myself. Rock Knight Studios game jams. Hey, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I see it, with let's say buying color theory tutorials like Gumroad, whatever, someone telling you how to paint it, so on. It's all based on the same principle of color theory, the traditional sense of color theory, and then someone is reappropriating it in their way or recommunicating it in their way in their package. But it's all based on the same theory. And this theory you can find for yourself and make your own point of view of it. And when you fully understand it, you can choose to divert from it. But if you're learning someone else refiltered knowledge of color theory, of this is how you paint, they have made selections. They have learned, or ideally they learn where to break it for their taste, and they teach that taste to you. So you are learning their filtered truth, right, of the same principle of color theory, and that you should always be wary of buying Gumroads that teach you that they don't. I can tell you this, as a teacher, and I know a lot of theory, seeing those gumroads, they should not teach. They're teaching it incorrectly. They're teaching you their bad habits as well as their good habits and good theory. So you should always be careful. Best is always to find the root of the information, the classic information that doesn't break, that's based on reality and how things work, right? But you can always buy a gumroad on a style that you admire to kind of glean into their mind of, how they get to where they're going. And that way, like, oh, I love the Pixar artist, I'm going to buy the Pixar artist's gumroad so that I can get closer to where I want to go, or whatever. But then you supplement it with reality or real color theory. Runaway Buzzo, I did CG Master Academy for 4 or 5 years, but I don't have one anymore. Fruax, exactly. We're gonna raid Max. I have to get back to work. Have a great day, everyone. Good night if you're that part of the world. I'm gonna do the outro and then take you to the raid, so don't go anywhere. Have a good night. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. Bye.